Now I'd like to introduce Chris Wallin. Chris is the Community or Commercial Programs Manager at Yarra Energy Foundation, who's been responsible for the first flagship urban community battery project in Fitzroy. Chris is an experienced project manager in technical, business and financial areas. He's an electrical engineer. He worked on large industrial installations from design to project handover. He's also had a career in business management with information technology companies and regularly volunteers with community organisations to assist in identifying and qualifying renewable energy projects. Most recently, project managed for the first inner urban community battery in Australia. So, welcome, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, are the Zoom attendants able to hear properly?
Yes. The closer you are to that phone, the better. If you'd like to disconnect it and hold it like a microphone, that will
okay.
Great.
And also, when we get to question time, if you could just repeat the question so they can hear.
Yeah, right. Okay.
People in the audience could ask them about it for you.
Sure. Is this too loud? So thank you for the introduction and thank you for having me here. It's my second chance to talk to you. I spoke about over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Yes, right.
Hold it up close to your mouth.
If you log into Zoom, then it's really good. No, so it's my second opportunity to talk to you. I had the first one over a year and a half ago. And at that time, it was the early days of what we were developing as a community battery project. Now we have learned a lot and we are now operating a battery all the day, every day on the electricity market. I will tell you more about that. I also want to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. I come from the land of the Wurundjeri people. I believe we're in the Kulin Nation here as well. And I thank the traditional owners for allowing me to be here. So Yarra Energy Foundation has existed for close to 13 years. It was created by City of Yarra as its let's say, repower equivalent in carrying out decarbonisation projects. And until about 2.5 years ago, when I joined, it was mainly focused on solar bulk buys, energy efficiency, advice to energy consumers and such things. I had the chance to volunteer with my local community energy group and trying to figure out what could you do beyond solar PV. And microgrids is probably where we all want to go eventually, but a good first step towards it is a community battery. And at that time, there were a few in Western Australia. So I started with a community proposal, a business case for a community battery up there where I live, which is actually the northeastern part of Melbourne and then Nillumbik. And then this position came up with Yarra Energy Foundation, where YEF was really looking for the next big thing. So that's how the whole thing started. And so when I spoke to you last time, we had a lot of great plans, and some of them really came to fruition. Others, we actually realized that wouldn't work. So what I wanted to talk about today is first make sure everybody understands what's a community battery to get everyone on the same page. Then I'll tell you about the YES program. So YES is a very positive program. It stands for Yarra Energy Storage Systems. And it's a program that we have pulled together with partners. And I'll tell you more about that in the delivery consortium section. I'll also tell you about the second project we're doing after the Fitzroy North, our first system, because it will probably be a blueprint of how we would go about applications for grant funding, like the one that Ralph was just mentioning before, which is we call it the DQ one, the Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water. I should also say it's only the first of a number of grant programs. There's another one with ARENA, and there's a third one with our Victorian government. So there is plenty to go. And then, as Ralph mentioned, there was a study that we carried out for Flinders of what it would make, what it would mean to have a community battery here. So with that, let's start with what is a community battery, and I'll address some of the questions before. Yep. So here you have some pictures of what you might see out there. There are different types of community batteries. And when I say community batteries, there is actually different denominations. You can call them community batteries, you can call them neighborhood batteries, you can call them network support batteries, or you can call it local storage. It sort of really depends on how the battery is used. The way we use it is as a community battery, as a solar soaker. But that's not always the case. So we talked about the pole tops. So there's a few that's been deployed. I think there's a total of 42 that are going to be deployed throughout the Bayside, not necessarily down here. What they do, so they're owned by United Energy, and they're mainly there for network support. And then they lease out the capacity to a retailer who will then trade on the market. But the main function of it is to make sure that the peak load, so the peak consumption that happens in different neighborhoods, can be reduced at certain moments where there is just a lot of consumption, like late afternoon on a very hot day with lots of air conditioners going. Well, these batteries will be pumping out energy as much as they can. Other ones have different models, like that one there is in Western Australia. That one is actually offering virtual storage to solar customers. So it's exclusive to solar customers, can store their energy and withdraw. The same thing is the case with that one up there. That's in Sydney. That's Ausgrid. That has 3 of those up there. But as you can see on the left there, there were some significant election promises before the federal and Victorian elections. And now we know there's going to be 500 of them that will be funded across Australia, and 100 of those specifically in Victoria. I think I addressed your question on the pole top. If not, let me know. Let's move on. So this is called a duck curve because it looks like a duck, and it came from the US Department of Energy in 2014, where they realized, Houston, we have a problem. What is the problem? So what you have here on the x-axis is the time from midnight to midnight. And then you have the amount of energy, of power that is demanded by the grid at any time. And what they noticed was that there was less and less demand on the grid in the middle of the day because there was more and more solar being generated. So they actually did this in 2014 with actual 2013 numbers. Nowadays, the duck is heavily pregnant, like it's going way down, all the way negative. So this is a problem worldwide. And Australia has the world record in household PV installation. So in some areas, and we work with a community up in Queensland, in the middle of the day, all energy goes up all the way up through the local distribution substation to the zone's distribution substation and up again. Same thing in South Australia. It's a real problem because the network was not designed for this. So therefore, if you want to click again, community batteries come and do a time shift. So they take a lot of that energy that's exported from these PV panels and store it in the battery. And then at night, when people start switching on their electrical appliances, the batteries are discharging. That's what community battery solar soakers do. And that's what we focus on. And in the process of doing that, it makes money on the electricity market. I'll explain that in a moment. So next one. So let me tell you a bit about the YES program, because that the YES program is important for 2 reasons. One is that it's YEF's proposal of how you can implement community batteries. The second is that It's today the only alternative to a distributor deploying a community battery. There's only 2 business models available right now, with, well, 3, 2 of them from electricity distributors and ours. And why is there only those 3 business models? Because it's really complicated to make this work. There's a lot of software that needs to be developed to make the battery do what it's supposed to do. And therefore, today, there is only the North Fitzroy system that's operating directly on the grid. And then there is a number, not that many, community batteries by distributors. So let's have a look at this. Next one. So the program is to prove to the industry and the community at large that a low voltage connected, and I focus on low voltage, connected mid-scale battery is commercially viable. And that was the big question. Can you actually make it commercially viable? Now, low voltage means it's the electricity that you have in the power points around here. And then when you go up one level, then you have medium voltage, which is 11,000 or 22,000 typically. This is important to understand because here in Flinders, there's about, I think from memory, about 22 different low voltage networks. And a community battery has to sit in one of these, which means that if you want to have local storage soaking up all the energy from PV panels, you would need a community battery in every one of these LV networks. And we will get there because the trajectory of battery technology and cost is taking us towards that. And as I will tell you a bit later, there is work underway on how you streamline the design of these systems, the deployment of them, the installation and the connection of them. So it will happen. The industry is just waiting for the numbers to go up and these products will come out. The way we do it is we focus on the hardest environment, which is inner urban, because there's very little space, very close to where people live. So the systems have to be silent. They have to be aesthetic. They have to be safe. And the local community needs to want it. So where we have put in the Fitzroy North system, well, initially they weren't sure. But the more they worked with us, the more they realized this is a pretty good idea. And now they're real ambassadors for the community battery in Fitzroy North. We keep it very simple, as you will see. I'll show it in a minute. We want to replicate as quickly as possible with the community involved, because that's how we can contribute to the 6.2 gigawatt battery storage target that our government in Victoria has set for 2035. Now, 6.2 gigawatts, you got kilowatts, right? Then you got megawatts, and then you got gigawatts. That's a lot. So we need all forms of storage: home batteries, community batteries, grid scale batteries. We need flow batteries. We need pump storage. We need EVs that can charge back or discharge back to the grid. We need lots of storage because the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. So you have to capture all of that so that it's always available. And that's the key, always available and not relying on fossil fuel. We tried to source locally everything we could, just as Taryn did for her project, and environmentally. So I'll tell you more about that. And we also would like the community to own the battery. And a good step towards that is for the council to own. I'll also talk a bit about that more. So next one. Okay, so this is it. This is most people today around North Fitzroy area know about the artwork more than what it actually does. It was artwork that was actually selected by the local community. They requested it. We worked with the manufacturer and they said, yeah, of course you can paint it. And this is Hayden DeWar. You can see his work around Melbourne with the solar quints, which are powered by the sun, and they help us transition to a future by recycling the old. That's a sewing machine in case you think it was some army device. And it's called Set the Controls to Harness the Sun. Is there any Pink Floyd fan in here? Great. So yeah, it's taken from a song, and you can see up here it says Floyd on the old cassette there. So there's a little wink to the old. It was introduced on the 5th of June last year, World Environment Day, by our Energy Minister. This is a partnership with City Power. So City Power worked very closely and jumped through many, many hoops. Now you think you have to jump through many, many hoops. Well, I can tell you they jumped through many hoops for us this time. And that was because this was the first time we were going to introduce a battery that operates directly on the grid and on the electricity market. It was possible thanks to grant funding from the Victorian government, the Neighbourhood Batteries Initiative. And it stores during the day and discharges in the evening, as I said, trading on the market. So let's move on to the next one. Now, this is an important slide to understand because this is how a community battery works. Most other proponents will emulate this in one way or the other. But the way we do it here is the box at the top. It's called the battery control system. If you want to click once again, that was developed by ANU, the Australian National University have a group that is focused on battery storage and grid integration. They provided the core software, and then Mill Software, a specialized software developer, integrated all of this into the piece of software that makes all the decisions on when to dispatch the battery. And then we send our commands to a retailer. And it's our partner, Yarra Energy. Actually, they're a close partner, and Stephen Thompson, the CEO, was hoping to be here today, but it's his wedding anniversary. And he was sort of debating which was more important. So what his system does is then dispatch the battery by trading directly on the market. And it does this by buying and selling energy, and also supporting the frequency, the 50 hertz that we all need to make our appliances work. It's called FCAS, and it's a complex service that has to be implemented. Now, they have to aggregate that because there's a limit that you cannot just go and support FCAS with any system. You have to have 1 megawatt. Now, this one is 120 kilowatts. So it has to be aggregated with others. And that's why a retailer aggregator is necessary for community batteries to be able to provide full service to the electricity market. And it operates on a cycle a day. Now, this same diagram here could apply to the United Energy pole tops, for example, or the future PowerCore Tarnit battery, or the Ausgrid ones in Sydney. But it's different. In their case, it's this box here is the distributor. They dispatch the system. And they have a retailer that sits up there that sends commands to them. So it's a little bit back to front, but this is because they are so-called ring-fenced. A distributor can only earn regulated revenue. And that's why they have to do it in a more complex way. And they don't like it. So they want to make changes to the rules, which is fine. We need a lot of storage to come in. So the more we can do, I know United Energy is considering a battery here for Flinders. We need that. And we are proposing to work with you on a community battery here in Flinders. We need that. We need as much storage as we can. And we could use this coming grant scheme to apply for one of these. And obviously, we will be proposing the low voltage connected one. Next one. The low voltage connected one. Oh, yes. Thank you. One more thing. The battery control system will also, with our second project, which is in Richmond, will be enabling and disabling an EV charger. And this is a way to integrate EV charging with battery control, with battery community batteries. The way it does this is that because it's bidding on the electricity market, which means the electricity market is relying on the battery to support it, we will allow people to charge their EV once we have rearranged our bids. And that way we're meeting the environmental goals and the financial goals without burdening the network, because the network has to even out all the charging of EVs. This is called smart charging. So we are doing smart charging of EVs as well as providing the community battery services. So that additional one, again, will be controlled by the one piece of software that Yarra Energy Foundation is in charge of and always will be in charge of. And this is the guarantee to the community that we will be making the right dispatch decisions for the environment and for community benefits. What we're also doing with the EV chargers is that we call it the Robin Hood model, in that people who are affluent and buy EVs up front and charge their batteries, well, a lot of the money that comes from that, we put it into a community benefit fund. And so there is money available. And that's what we would like to do with our first EV charger project in Richmond. In that case, the Community Benefit Fund will subsidize the purchase of PV panels. So you already have the attractive offer by the Victorian government, and you would get a subsidy from your local community benefit fund, so that we can get as much solar as we can. That's the cheapest way, as Taryn said, to get renewable energy into our neighborhoods. Next one, thank you. Yep.
What's your experience of breakdowns so far?
Of
Breakdowns in the system?
Of community battery?
Yeah.
Extremely reliable. We haven't had any problem whatsoever. So we went live in June. We had a circuit breaker trip on the air conditioning of one panel. That's it. All our problems were software problems.
What happens when there's not enough storage for the night to see the night out?
No. So what happens is the community battery doesn't have enough storage for the entire neighborhood. In Fitzroy North, there is about 200 households, and the consumption can be reduced by the amount that can be stored. So we have about 300 kilowatt hours, but that 300 kilowatt hours is not enough for the entire consumption, but it reduces the peak of consumption. And that's what's the most important to the network. And that allows you to have renewable energy, more renewable energy in your evening supply. Otherwise, it's pretty much all fossil fuels.
So the batteries have air conditioners as well?
Absolutely. And they were built for Australia because the company, I'll tell you more about the company actually. The company is called Pixie. And Pixie is a Norwegian company. When we did our procurement of batteries, I spoke to about 24 battery manufacturers. 13 of them made a submission to our tender. And Pixie stood head and shoulder about everybody else. They had designed a system for the telecom industry that is very, very strict on safety, on cybersecurity, on software quality. And so it was a sort of a boon to bring it into the energy industry that still lags a lot in technology. But what's really important with them is that they source their battery cylinders from a Swedish company called Northvolt. And Northvolt builds their cylinders with 100% renewable energy. They also recycled 95% of the materials. And that was a very important environmental goal. We wanted to see the circular economy. And they were the only ones that could display this. They also were among the best priced because their systems come off a production line. Whereas many others, unfortunately, this was very unfortunate here in Australia, most battery manufacturers do bespoke work. And that's too expensive. So we could never meet our budget requirements unless the system came off a production line. We could have bought even cheaper Chinese systems, but they weren't technically compliant and they were very noisy. The Pixie system was the most silent or least noisy of all submissions. So very, very important for the community.
Are their batteries able to disconnect if they get too hot, like coming in and they have the air conditioning?
Absolutely.
Goes off, like.
Thank you for asking the question because there's a great answer here. You've probably have read in the press that there's been quite a lot of fires with lithium-ion batteries, particularly on scooters and electric bikes, because the lithium-ion batteries are low quality. So the ones coming from Northvolt, they have not only internal, the modules have internal monitoring of the temperature, but inside each cell, there is a valve that will close as soon as there is a temperature limit that's hit. And when it closes, that cylinder is offline. It cannot operate anymore. So with the Northvolt batteries, if you want it to catch fire, you have to throw it in fire. It will not catch fire by itself. And that's how that, plus the fact that there is constant monitoring of the temperature in the modules that contain the cylinders, make them extremely safe. And it's the same for your electric vehicles. I had the chance to come in here to this venue in an electric vehicle. You feel safe in an electric vehicle? Well, do you feel safe in an electric vehicle? Right, because the manufacturer has made sure it's not going to start burning. And it's the same thing. In fact, a community battery is an EV without the wheels. A good way to remember what it is. Just in the interest of time, because I'm sure Ralph is going to get nervous here. So what you see here is in the yellow curve is when we charge and discharge. And what you see in green is the spot price of electricity. It's very flat right now. We don't make much money at all. And we leave money on the table because if it was a retailer that was owning the battery and doing what they want, they would always be going for, okay, I'm going to discharge, I'm going to charge, I'm going to discharge, I'm going to charge. They're basically going to do instantaneous decisions one way or the other. We don't. So we leave money on the table because we only charge during the day and we only discharge at night because we have environmental goals. And that's what we will always be defending. Next slide. All right, so this is what it took to do the first. I'm not going to go through all of it, so you can relax. But this is what it took to do the first system. We had to go through every single item here on this slide to eventually, finally go live. And every one of them took a lot of work. Therefore, we don't want to do it again. We want to replicate as much as we can. And the yellow circles here are where we could work that we have to do again, but the other things have already been done. Very important thing is this one here. It used to be that planning applications were required. Well, with our project, the planning department in DELP changed the rule, made a specific change for all of Victoria that planning applications are not required for community batteries to help more storage and more renewable energy. And that's different in the rest of Australia. So, but very important, that doesn't mean the community should not be involved. In fact, the community must be involved in what we're doing today. What I'm hoping is that retailers won't take advantage of this and just plonk systems here and there and speculate on the market. The next one. These are some of the key learnings. I won't go through all of them, but I want to emphasize these two here. It's important when you think of community batteries that you think of a network of them because a single battery by itself doesn't give a good return. It takes too long to get the money back. But if you think of a network, then there's community, there is economies of scale. And you can not only improve the return on investment, but you can actually also make it much quicker. You can deploy much faster. So that's one thing. And the second thing really is the community engagement, that we work in each case with the community of how the community want it, where they want it, what they want it to look like, and so forth. And because of the difficulty of the software, the connection, and the commissioning, there hasn't been many proponents so far for community batteries because it's really not easy. Next one. Okay, so just a word about the next one. Thank you. Enrichment. So what you have here, and I'm going to walk over here. You have the battery here. So this is an example of the Pixie system. You have the connection point sitting here. That's the meter. And then you have the charger. It's actually going to be a 60 kilowatt medium fast charger. What that means is that you could probably get enough storage in your car, energy in your car for the next few days with just 10 to 15 minutes of charging. And that's how we think about community chargers, that's what we call them, in that people can get their car there, stay there for 10 or 15 minutes, and then leave the spot for somebody else so that people in the neighborhood can use that more easily. It is integrated with the battery in the cloud. You know, today the sun's shining, there's no cloud activity. No, it's the cloud. So the battery control system that is sending commands through an interface to the charger platform. And that's how we are enabling and disabling and giving the power capacity and getting all the billing and so forth through the cloud. The charger is not like a regular EV charger because it uses a time of use tariff, which means if you come up in the middle of the day, you're going to get a great rate. But if you come up in the middle of the evening peak, either you won't be able to charge or it will cost a lot. And if it's later at night, it probably is going to cost you a lot more because it's all on fossil fuel that you're charging your car. So that's how the time of use tariff is going to work. It is connected to a low voltage network where we have the Melbourne Girls College, and it has a very large solar array. And I realized as I started to work on this that schools are only open half of the year. So half of the year, there is all that export coming into the network. So we are trying to put the biggest system we can to absorb all of that. And then at night, because it's a hybrid network, we can actually feed into or supply all the local residents. Next one. Okay, so the DQ program, it's a program that we need to make a submission to before the end of February. And given the amount of things that they are asking us to submit, it's not a lot of time. So next one, please. So this is the consortium that we have pulled together that will be delivering a number of systems. And we are planning currently between 4 and 8 applications. Each community battery is subject to 1 application. And that could include Flinders. So I would love to work with your group here to see how we could make that happen. And we'll talk about ownership and so forth. Acacia Energy, we've talked about. There's an EV charger partner I'm in the process of selecting. They're all really keen to work with us, and they think this is one of the best ways to get EV charging into the neighborhoods. Pixie, we've talked about them. Mill Software, and then ANU. So all of these companies are coming together to make sure that the complete solution can be deployed with minimal effort in each instance. Next one, please. This is all the things that they are asking for, and I want to bring your attention to the top one on the business model. So it has to lower household electricity costs, and it has to lower emissions, and it has to benefit the electricity network. That's basically the core. That's what we have to do. It has to bring the community benefit, pretty much in translating that into that local community. And you have to have a company that is capable of delivering. And that's where the hard part is. So that's where we think we are in a very good position. Next one. And so the way we are proposing to do this is in this way. You have the grant funder, and I call it grant funder because there's 3 grants coming up. This is the first one. And there's a CV owner. And that CV owner, community battery owner, is the one that is the recipient of the money. And that's up to $500,000 on this one. And then the owner would enter into a delivery contract, in fact, delivery and operation contract with our consortium, and we would be the lead. Now, we could be the owner, and like we are in Fitzroy North, and we will be in Richmond, but it could be a local community energy group, or it could be council. Currently, we're working on 2 applications with 2 councils where they want to be the owner. And we think that's a fantastic model that would set a precedent of how councils can actually get really involved in how the climate emergency plan is unfolding in their LGA. I understand Stephanie is coming tonight. Hi, love to talk to you if you're interested in this. And then we have the green arrows, very important. That's where the income comes from the electricity market, from Acacia, who's trading on the electricity market, and from the EV charger. And that goes into the community benefit fund I mentioned before. Now, in Richmond, it'll be for PV panels, and it's for the catchment of that low voltage network. But you can decide you want to do it differently. Maybe you want it to be used for something else that is helping the climate, but also the community in lowering energy bills. Next one. Just quickly, the most important thing, this is sort of the main things that need to happen for this application. And the main thing is these two. It's finding a substation. So in your case, there's a lot of pole-mounted ones, and there is at least one kiosk that has high solar capacity. So lots of solar installed. Residential or residential and business, if possible with a network constraint. I don't know if there is one here. And then find within that low voltage network a suitable location close to the pole, on the same side as the pole, because otherwise you have to go under the street, and if possible on council or distributor land. That's what we are looking for in each instance. Once we have that, everything flows. Then we can do the community engagement plan. Then we can define what is the connection capacity that defines the size of the systems. And from that, we can do the budget, the financials, and off we go. We can actually start the application. So that's the plan. Now, if we go to the next section, which is talking about Flinders. Now, we did a study for Flinders, and next one again. We were looking for a location that had these kinds of characteristics. High solar capacity, residential, keen community interest, nearby park or communal area, that's the best way. Strong council support, and if possible, load constraints. If also there's an anchor customer, we call it anchor customer. It could be a school, could be the bowls club, could be somewhere where there's large roof space with a lot of solar on. Fantastic. Lots of solar exports. That's what we want. Now we looked at the Flinders case. So next one, please. Where we saw that there is one amazing low voltage network with up to 220 kilowatts installed. Now, that community battery can store that and supply it at night. So that will benefit that low voltage network. But overall for Flinders, it's going to help increase the renewable energy content in the consumption. So the bigger, the better for community batteries. And then we can replicate from there to other areas. Also, what would be really great if the location we select is where we could also put some EV charge points. And therefore, it has to be convenient for people to come and park their car in that neighborhood. And also that it's close to the pole, so there's a low cost of installing, or can use more money for making sure that the whole system is in place for the highest capacity possible. I think I'm way over my 20 minutes, but hopefully that has given you an idea, and I might stop there and see if there are any questions. We might leave this up if we need to go back to some slides. Yep.
How feasible technically and politically would it be to combine such a project with undergrounding the power lines and getting rid of coal?
Fantastic. If United Energy is ready to do it. In many countries, they did it from scratch, but to go back and do it, it's rare. I haven't seen it very often. But if you can get some of United Energy to want to do it, we're all for it. Too much. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Great presentation, and I think really helpful. You mentioned noise and the location of those batteries, and I think visually the pole batteries look pretty average in my view, but is there an argument in a place like Flinders that's got very big nature strips and so forth to actually just put them underground, just put them in a concrete?
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the early thoughts that we had. Then we found out what the cost was of that, and we realized, great idea for the future. At the moment, the best way to do it is you find a pole, you stick it next to the pole. That's the lowest connection point. It's the lowest cost of installation. That's, I think, how, the community batteries you see today is like the iPhone 1. Today, like, I don't know what this is, but I have an iPhone 13, you know, it's amazing what it can do. Same thing with batteries. I mean, the entire world of technology is working on the software, the hardware, the battery chemistries. There is so much happening. It's going to be amazing. So the sooner we get a community battery somewhere, the more we can get more benefits in the future. I forgot to say one thing. There is one limiting factor for community batteries anywhere it might be installed. If there is not a proper tariff this is a network tariff, the tariff that the electricity distributors, in this case United Energy, charges the battery. Now there are so-called waiver tariffs for community batteries, and they allow the battery to make money. We actually make money every day. And that's necessary. If not, if we were a small, medium business, we couldn't make money. It's not possible. So we are then taking that to the next step. And the next step is to, and addressing, I think a question that might have come up, how we can get a lower cost of, for example, you charging your EV that's in the street from your solar array. Well, the problem is that currently it would hit peak rates. And instead of that, we try to work with City Power, Powercore, United Energy to come up with new tariffs that are cost reflective. Like if the energy only goes across the cable, why would you pay the cost of the entire grid, which currently is what you do?
Can I just ask?
Right.
This is a really basic question, and I'm sure you've answered it, and I probably just didn't understand.
That's okay.
So I've got a house with solar panels. Now, currently, it just goes back into the grid. So if I say, okay, I've got solar panels, this is great, I want to use the community battery. So do they just, United Energy, just say, okay, your house in Double Creek Road, how does that, I don't quite understand how that will.
Yeah, that's a very good question, because most people think if there's a community battery in the neighborhood, you need to subscribe to it or sign up to it. You don't. It comes in and it soaks up all the energy that's there during the day, and then it discharges it at night.
So it's just automatically taken.
Automatically. You don't have to sign up. Not today. But with these new tariffs we are investigating with City Power, there may be a case where we're going to offer special services. For example, we could offer this virtual storage that they do in Western Australia and in Sydney, but what we could also do is allow you to, coming back to the vehicle to grid thing, you could have your vehicle parked in the street, connected to a charge point, but because it's a huge battery, you can actually supply your evening consumption from it.
I sort of get that, but so, okay, so 29%, I think was the figure that we were given our houses in Flinders now have solar panels. So we obviously need to get more of them. So we benefit, it goes to everyone in the community. Everyone in the community benefits whether they've got solar panels or not.
Yep, in that low voltage network, yes.
Yeah.
I think that the issue that we need to understand is that a community battery services a small component of the township.
Yeah.
So in order for everybody to be able to feed into their local battery and get a direct benefit back from that, we would need to have a number of different batteries in locations around Flinders.
Yes.
So we're talking here about a potential first step, a pilot, to see how it all works and see that it is effective. And then we would need to add to that.
So tonight, are you talking about where you're thinking about, or?
Not immediately. I mean, we might get to that in formal discussions. This area around the King Street, Lee Street area is the identified ideal location for a battery at this point, because that is the highest concentration of solar panels in Flinders, in that region.
But no one wants it in their native strip. So,
well, that's something that would have to be negotiated or discussed
Oh, put it on my next, it's fine.
We've got to move in. Had to add on.
How does this relate to the discussion earlier about the 22 connectors? Because it presumably is only one of those areas.
That's right, it's
Of
one,
those 22.
it's one
So
way
let's
on.
come back to what you're saying about it.
We're going to have to move on. So there will be an opportunity to ask your questions a little bit later. I'd like to introduce Stephanie Delaney. Thanks very much, Chris.